without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce the President, CEO, and a friend to everyone in the industry, Paul Darley. Paul, you can now start sharing the screen, and I will officially spotlight you. And the floor is yours, Paul.
That's great. Thanks, Kevin. So hopefully, let me just get this set up here, and hopefully you're seeing a screen that says "Sold: The Art of Relationship Sales Using Emotional Intelligence and Authentic Leadership to Sell More." So
yep, you're good.
Okay, thank you very much. So, this is actually a presentation that I've given probably 50 times since I wrote my book 3 or 4 years ago, and I've given it to the entire Pierce Dealer Network, the Rosenbauer Network. This week, I'm giving it to the Rev Network. I had an opportunity to give it to the VCAS group down in Symposium in the Sun, and a number of other folks. And it's usually an hour presentation, and we're going to be live this year. That was the plan, but I think I applaud our group, the committee here, on making it 20 minutes so that we can focus on the abbreviated topics that are really what most of you are here to learn about. And also, even though, look, everybody is a salesperson. I don't care whether you're a truck mechanic, a fire chief, a city manager, we're all salespeople, whether you're trying to get a better seat at a table in a restaurant or trying to get, meet the person of your dreams. We're all selling ourselves all the time. But today I really wanted to focus, knowing our audience, I really wanted to focus today on just 3 areas of the book. And I've got 20 minutes and I'll talk about 15. And I've got a video that'll take about 3 minutes. And then I'll take some questions and answers if they happen for the last 2 or 3 minutes. But I really just want to focus in today on 3 areas. That's emotional intelligence. Love to know how many of you are familiar with that. Authentic leadership, and then some management tips. And really my goal today is to have you just take a couple of nuggets away from today of things that you can hopefully, implement in your life to make you a better person, a better business person, a better mechanic, whatever your trade is, to, just overall do that in a little bit better way. And I think you'll hopefully get a takeaway. And I've got those highlighted here. So emotional intelligence, 15 years ago, no one had ever heard of emotional intelligence. It was started by a gentleman, a Harvard business professor by the name of Daniel Goleman, who, went and realized that, people have IQ. We measure our IQ, and we've been doing that since you were in first grade or so. But you can also measure your EQ, and your EQ is how you relate to people, understand yourself, and how you control your emotions, and really ultimately how you're able to motivate people to action. And if you look at Fortune 500 companies today, over 90% of them hire their C-suites, so to their CEOs, CFOs, COOs, presidents. They hire them based on their emotional intelligence more than any other factor out there. So, and it's because of their ability to motivate people and go into a situation and be able to ultimately motivate a team toward a common goal and getting people to naturally want to follow you. And I became a student of this about 10 years ago. I actually was able to went through a 2-year program at University of Illinois and was one of the first degreed folks in it. My wife even got a little sick and tired of hearing about it. She would say EIEIO, but you get out of practice. Here we're all, or a lot of us, our lives have changed over the last 12 months, and we lost a lot of us, including myself, really have lost a lot of our emotional intelligence. It's our first, and there's 4 quadrants. It's your self-awareness. How comfortable are you in your shoes? How well do you know your deficiencies and work on those? The second to the right there is self-management. How, do you control your emotions? Do you interrupt others? Are you, sensitive to other people's needs? You go down into social awareness, which, so the top are really about yourself and the bottom are really about how you interact with others. And what's your ability to walk into a room and, work the room and sense the mood of that crowd? What's your ability to really sit down and really listen to people? And that's really hard. It's particularly hard for men. It's women are much higher EI when it comes to their listening abilities, all the rest, and really hear what they're saying and what they're not saying. And then lastly, it's your relationship management. How are you able to take those areas and motivate people to action? And that's, again, why the CEOs by Fortune 500 companies are so much into emotional intelligence. And you can go on and you can test your IQ. Just put in you could go and buy a book called the #1 best-selling business book for the last 3 years. has been not sold. That's my book. I wish I had come out with it earlier, but it was Emotional Intelligence 2.0. It's written by Dr. Travis Bradberry. Look, the book's okay, but you can find all sorts of stuff. And in fact, Kevin has a copy of my digital copy of my book that we'll be sending out to everybody, and hopefully you'll share it along with these slides. But it's really your ability to go in, and you can go in and you can measure your emotional intelligence. There's all sorts of things that you can work on in improving your EI, or your EQ is your emotional quotient. And you can test it before and after some studies. And I would encourage you to take a look. It'll pinpoint for you, based on you honestly asking questions, where are the areas that you need to work the most. And I'll tell you, Ed Darley, and personally, I'm a big believer that everything starts at home. You've got to have solid home relationships with your family if you're going to be able to build and form and have long-lasting, solid relationships with others. So I'm going to challenge you all to do what's called the 90-second rule, and it's in my book. But I encourage you, and I adopted this about 5 years ago. When I get home from work, or I get home from anywhere, particularly when I get home from work at the end of the day at 6 or 7 p.m., I never walk in the house talking on my telephone. If I'm on my phone coming home from work for the business call or whatever, I finish that call. I then walk in my house. I greet my wife, my kids, my dog, in that exact order, giving them 90 seconds. Honey, how was your day? What was going on? And it gives them an opportunity to vent. And I'll tell you, and because it's not one of the main premises of my book Sold is that it's not about you. It's all about others. It's all about how you react to others' needs and address their pain points, and you're respectful and building trust and all the rest. So I really would encourage you to, hopefully that'll be a nugget with the 90-second rule. And also, as I look at emotional intelligence, and I look at authentic leadership, as I began to study, and I had a mentor who took me under his wing. He was the University of Illinois Business School was named after him. His name was Jim Leotode. He picked me and 9 other CEOs to mentor for about 10 years. And I really learned about authentic leadership and emotional intelligence through him. And and as I studied emotional intelligence, and one of the other premises of my book was that companies that are run by salespeople are more profitable than companies that are run by people who come up through other disciplines, whether it's finance or engineering or operations. Like, you need to have all those backgrounds, but the people who can really get stuff done, and again, the reason why these CEOs are hired for their emotional intelligence is because of their ability to size things up and get stuff done. They understand what's going on. So I ask for you to think for yourself a little bit. What does authentic leadership look like to you? And I've got a little word cloud here, and I look at Rich Marinucci and Brian Brown and John Witt and Al Brunacidi, my father. I've got Muhammad Ali on here, just all amazing leaders. And as you think of leaders in your life, it could be your pastor, it could be your fire chief, it could be your city manager, whoever it is. I'm always constantly looking at those folks and say, what are the traits that I really want and aspire to be? And I know that all of them, they're all like, if you're sitting in a session today, you're after self-improvement. I applaud you for taking the time to be a lifelong learner, but go in. It's a lot of this emotional intelligence stuff, and the same stuff that makes authentic CEOs or authentic leaders. It goes across the board, whether it's in your office, your warehouse, your shop plant, wherever it is. And it's a lot of it's what our mothers taught us as kids. Look, listen to people, don't interrupt, put others first. And ultimately, act in a way that people naturally want to follow you. And that's really the crux, where you're not dragging people along. They're saying, geez, I want to follow John Witt. I want to follow Brian Brown because of the great traits that he has. So, and that really only happens by earning respect and trust of others. And Amy Covey she's another Harvard business professor, and she says that people size everybody else up within 5 seconds of first meeting them, and they say to themselves subliminally, can I trust this person and can I respect this person? So those are really two of the same bases that I work off. And I got to give you 2 great quotes here. One was from Al Brunacidi, who I know you probably all know. He was a wonderful man. I had an opportunity to know him for a long time, but I remember 30 years ago when we were building these crazy fire trucks that made no sense. He said, Today's fire trucks are like delivering pizzas in a cement truck, and I look at where we've evolved today with, truly meeting the real natural needs or the true latent needs of the fire service, where look, only 4% of the time are you truly fighting fires, and so therefore let's make the pump area smaller, and let's provide more compartment space because we're responding to more rescue calls and things of that nature. The other one that I love is Muhammad Ali, and he said, I never judge people by how they treat me. I always judge them on how they treat the others around me. And he was talking about the waiter, and he was talking about the staff at a restaurant or whatever with that context. So kind of keep that, I'd encourage you to keep that in mind as well. And I'll tell you, it does not take much to separate yourself from the pack. And it's so at Darley Company, we're a meritocracy. We reward based on merit. And Kevin, my hat goes off to you, by the way, on the 50 plus hours you've spent putting this together. Well done. But it's perseverance, and it's patience, and it's passion. And this stuff can't be faked. I mean, and relationships are built over time. And it's by doing all the small things in life that really help to build those relationships. And I love this quote by Steve Jobs. And it says, look, I'm convinced that about half of what separates successful people, whether it's entrepreneurs, from non-successful ones is pure perseverance. So it's this idea of constantly working on where can I be better? How can I improve as a company? How do I set myself aside from the pack? And I want you to think for a second. If you look at Major League Baseball players, the difference between an all-star baseball player who's hitting batting average of 300 versus kind of a mediocre one who's batting 250. What do you think that comes down to statistically from a batting standpoint? That difference. It's going to surprise you. It's one more hit in every 20 at bats. That's all it takes to go from 250 to 350 statistically. So, I really encourage you to, just the little steps. It's the handwritten notes and things today that really kind of become, it doesn't take much more to separate you from the pack. I want to give you just a couple of management tips that I learned from my father and others over the years that, and today, I just had dinner with Carl Rove last Monday night, and we sat down and we talked about how, biggest issue facing, there were 8 of us, all of the CEOs in the room. Our biggest issue is hiring and retaining good employees. And so you've got to make sure that you've got employees who you've got to become their advocate. You've got to have their back. You want engaged employees who are properly representing your organization. And for most of us, and particularly if you're in a municipality or whatever, your real currency is your ability to praise others verbally. You don't maybe have the ability to, dial out big bonuses or whatever it is. So like at Darley Company, we use what's called our board of praise, and every employee can, nominate another employee for a job well done when we catch them doing something right type of thing. The other thing that I would encourage you to do is really try to push decision-making down in your organization, particularly if you're a new manager. One of the things that I see happen all the time to new managers who think, hey, they're going to be a real hero here, is that, they'll have subordinates come up to them and say, oh, boss, I'll tell you, we got a real problem here. And you know what they do is they take that problem off their back and they give it to the back of the manager who thinks he's got to take or she has to take it on because, they're superhero and that's what managers do. I'll tell you, it's just the opposite. As a manager, you really have to push that decision-making back. So make sure that you're asking yourself, who's got the monkey? Do not take the monkey when it comes to management. And the other thing is address issues while they're quickly and while they're small. We're all hunters here at Darley Company. And so in our family business, we've got a big conference table, probably 20 seats around it. And we use the metaphor of what's called a smelly moose. And so when we have issues that nobody wants to talk about, and look, I was on a conflict resolution meeting this morning on family business and stuff. Not that we have a lot of that in our business, but it's amazing the number of people who just are, and I find myself being conflict avoidant. But in order to go and maybe keep things moving as they were. Oops, sorry about that. In order to keep things going. So don't let things fester. We use the analogy. You probably have heard the elephant in the room. We use a smelly moose, which is a metaphor for a 1,200-pound smelly moose on the center of the conference table. Everybody knows it's the issue going on, but nobody wants to address it. So I would also encourage you you've always got to reinvent your organization, your company, your fire department, whatever. If you go back and you look, how many companies do you think are on the Dow Jones that were on it 50 years ago? There's only 2. All right. So, I mean, companies, there's business life cycles. You've got to make sure that you've changed. We've never seen such rapid changes we're seeing right now during COVID. And lastly, you got to make sure that you're focusing on what's most important. And the best way to focus on what's most important, I have found, or a great way to do it, is using the Pareto Principle. And Alfredo Pareto was an economist who, in Italy in the mid 1800s, you probably have heard this as the 80-20 rule. And he said, oh my gosh, 20%, he does this research, and 20% of the landowners in Italy own property that own 80% of the property. And if you find, I got to tell you, the 80-20 rule applies to almost everything in your world, from a business aspect. And you don't need to focus on this graph too much. But we as a company want to sell our best-selling SKUs, our stock keeping units, our best-selling products to our best-selling customers. That's where we make our best. That's where we make our best money. If we're down here selling products that we don't sell it very often to kind of crummy customers, we're losing money on that. And I'll tell you, so at whatever, you've got to focus on what's really important. If you're a business person on this line, really what this means to you is treat customers fairly, but not equally. If we go and we give the same treatment to, a smaller business, that we would give to our largest customer, we're going to treat that customer fairly. We're just not going to treat them equally. And this Pareto Principle, I tell you, look at it. When you walk in your closet or open your closet, I'll bet you're wearing 20% of your clothes 80% of the time. It applies to just about everything. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that. I also want to encourage you to be guided by your organization's core values. And we at Darley, spend a lot of time on this. Everybody's got a little laminated card that has our mission, our vision, our strategic direction on one side. On the other side is our core values. And as a manager, and if you don't have your core values as an organization espoused, I would really encourage you to do this, because as a leader, I find myself going to our core values all the time for leadership, for direction on how I handle dilemmas that are put on my plate. So, does it have integrity? Is it passionate customer service, relationships based on respect? All of our employees can cite all these things. And then we're doing a lot of training here. We're having a brigadier general from Northwestern University who teaches leadership. He's actually on our defense advisory board. We're doing a lot of leadership training for all of we're over 50 employees here at Darley. We also have this, we're talking a lot about culture and the cultural changes that are taking place as a result of COVID and other things. So we follow our core values immensely, but there's also, hey, how are things done around here with your culture? So as a culture, we focus on delighting the customers, making sure that we're easy to work with. We empower our employees at low end to take care of issues so that they don't become smelly mooses. Become a smelly moose issue. We also know that speed is a competitive advantage. We always said, look, it's not the big that eat the small, it's the fast that eat the slow. But with this too, I've also come to embrace over just really the last quarter this year, the concept of velocity. And I'll tell you, I don't know much about velocity from a physics standpoint. I wouldn't have got through physics if the guy next to me in high school didn't get through physics. But there's my integrity thing. It was a joke, but velocity is a combination of both speed and direction at one. So making sure that you are focused on the right things. And lastly, we enjoy what we're doing. I want to share a 3-minute video, and then Kevin, if there's time, we'll take some questions.
To those who do the hard work, day after day, who don't do 9 to 5, who never know what the day may hold, to those who risk it all, who carry us when we can't walk, who run to face danger, they call you first responders. We see you as much more. For us at Darley, you're our inspiration. You've set the bar. You're our guiding light in all that we do. Your courage gives us our strength. Your sacrifice gives us our purpose. You have shown us the meaning of integrity, to act ethically, and to do what we say we are going to do. Your dedication has given us the passion to think of your needs first and to place service to you above all else. You have shown us the value of relationships built on trust and respect. Your family has taught ours the importance of teamwork and created a culture that empowers us to make decisions on what's right for you. Your selflessness fuels our drive to innovate new technologies and solutions that allow you to carry out your missions better, safer, and smarter. Your victories are our rewards, which we cherish and give us the greatest sense of satisfaction. For over 100 years, your example has shaped who we are. We are Darley. Trusted worldwide since 1908.
I'll tell you, we are, as a 113-year-old family business, we are incredibly passionate about the job that we do. And I think so much of it goes to, the fact that, we are doing, we're not out selling staplers or something. We are, providing life-saving equipment to people who are making a true difference in this world. So thank you for all you do. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. And Darley has been sponsoring and been a part of the FDSOA for, I would have to guess since its inception, which was, 25 years ago? I'm not quite sure what that is, but we're really proud of that. We hope your organization continues to prosper. We as a business will do all we can to contribute to help that. So thank you very much, Kevin. Appreciate the time today.